Welcome everyone to AdventureMind. It is amazing to have you back after it seems like a very long break through COVID. AdventureMind is all about realizing that there's an opportunity out there, a wonderful opportunity for better well-being, better societies, and I think even a better relationship with our planet through adventure. And I think I'm speaking a lot to preaching to the converted. Let me just move my microphone. Is that better, Andy? So it's about recognizing this opportunity, but it's also about doing something about it. AdventureMind is about creating a conference, but also a community of people who are invested in this because we love it. We work in it, we research it, whatever our speciality is, and getting us all together to do something about it. So I really hope that we're not just an echo chamber the next 2 days. Really hope that we're going to go away with great things that you can learn and take to your work from the amazing talent in this room and the amazing speakers we've got, but also that we can share with the wider community. So we will be asking you things during the next 2 days to help contribute to that. So that's why we're here. Whoops. Where am I pointing? That way? First challenge. Oops, have I gone too far? Yes. So, why do I believe this? I think I've been asked a lot over the last year since my books come out, particularly, why are you so passionate about this? Why do you believe this so much? So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how we got to this point. And it feels like a good way to kick us off. So for the last 26 years, I've been leading expeditions and adventures with all sorts of different groups all around the world and here in Britain. Even more recently, this is in February with my 4-year-old, even though that's my background, and I now have the biggest challenge, which is becoming a parent, and that is the hardest thing I've ever done, I still feel that adventure is a very key part of my life and our life as a family, and it's an essential part that we're focusing on because we understand how important it is. I could talk all day about this. It's fabulous, but anyway, and also extremely hard. But where did it all begin? I was a little bit older. That's my brother, about the same age as my son now. I like to use this because it embarrasses him that I'm showing this to hundreds of people every now and then. He's 33 or 34 now. Probably should know. Anyway, one or the other. But this was where it all started for me. Or a little bit earlier, actually, when I was 16. From having seen that backpack that I just showed you in the last picture, it looked a bit like a Duke of Edinburgh award. Anyone who's led those will know that's badly packed. That looks like someone without the expertise. Well, this all started for me with Duke of Edinburgh. I went to the Brecon Beacons, I came back, and a great friend of mine, who is still friends, said, it was like a light came on in you. And I think I know there's lots of people in this room who've seen that light come on in young people through doing things like this. That led me to then, when I was 18, I went and joined my very first expedition. And that was me at the end. I came back a changed person. I had had a lot of struggles in my childhood. I'd had a lot of difficulties and obstacles that I'd had to deal with, and I didn't know how to deal with them. So I'd had a very low self-esteem. And when I came back from Africa, I came back, not, I would say, cured, not everything fixed, but I had hope for the first time. I also felt that I had worth, and that I deserved a better future than I'd ever seen for myself before. And that was all through adventuring. And so I've always said, adventure's my therapy. Even when I didn't understand why. Not that I fully understand now, but I have spent a lot of time trying to understand. So it all started then. By the time I was 20, I got really hooked. You do get hooked, don't you, on adventuring? I could talk for hours about that, but I won't. About the wonderful positive feedbacks of adventuring. So by the time I was 21, I led my first international expedition. This was to the Taklamakan Desert. Taklamakan translates as you go in, but you don't come out. Still the best named place I've ever been. And actually, we did all come out. It was a terrible failure in all sorts of other ways. Our actual mission out there was a bit of a disaster. But we went in and we all came out. And of course, huge amounts of learning. By the time I was 26, I was the youngest chief leader for the British Exploring Society, a wonderful, wonderful organisation. I'm very proud to be one of their, not ambassadors, something like that. There's a different word for it. I can't think. That's terrible. I've got that wrong. Oh, my goodness. All I know is that they are a fantastic organisation, and year on year, they seem to be just getting better. So if you don't know about British Exploring already, have a look at them. They're fantastic. So this was, I was 26. I had a team of about 120 people in different groups around the Amazon. And this was when I was sort of 16, 18, I discovered adventure helped me. This was when I first discovered that adventure helps lots of people. It's not just me. This transformation I could see. And the work that I've done with young people, even, I would say, definitely, when you look back at 26 years of career, it's the most important stuff I've ever done. Because it is life-changing. And so this is where I really started to learn that there's something here, and why aren't we talking about it? That took me into TV. I'd done lots of adventurous stuff. So TV crews started to ask me to get their film crews in and out of funny places. This is me and Bear Grylls inside a glacier, me looking not very cool, Bear looking super suave. That happened a lot, but I don't think anyone pulls off a helmet very well, I must, in my own defense. TV was great, lots of fun trips, but the best trip for me, the most important TV, sorry Bear, and all the other wonderful people I've worked with in television. There was this wonderful expedition that I was invited to join. It was called Beyond Boundaries. The wonderful Ken Hames invited me to be part of his leader team and to help support, and eventually it became a TV show as well, to film this expedition to cross Nicaragua. But it was a very special crossing because it was 11 people with zero expedition experience, but also they each had a different physical disability. And the crossing was 220 miles from east to west. And I think at the time, expeditions with people with disabilities were something, although I'd been in expeditions for, I don't know, 10, 12 years at that point, I'd never heard of anything like it before. Of course, that's because I hadn't researched well. There's a wonderful Suresh Pool in all of his work, so if you're interested in disability expeditions with people with disabilities, look up Suresh. He's doing wonderful work. But at the time, there was just so little out there like that. And it was mind-blowing for everyone, just what we're all capable of and what the world is capable of. So the team had different disabilities, I said. There were 2 wheelchair users. Amar at the back is blind. Imagine pushing that through, I don't know if there's probably quite a few people here who've done jungle expeditions. Imagine taking that through the jungle. We had to go over, we thought the jungle in the sticky mud would be hard. We also had to go through the savannah. And this rutted, baked hard ground was actually just as difficult. Bone shaking, really. And if you think you've got prosthetics and so on, we had a lot of issues with the amputees having rubbing, especially, this was Glenn's leg. I think he'd lost his leg in a motorcycle accident, maybe only about a year and a half earlier. So his stump hadn't sort of calloused up enough. So there was incredible challenges that everyone had, on top of just being a new explorer and doing something like this for the first time. This is Lorraine. Lorraine lost her leg above the knee, which means it's particularly challenging physically compared to below the knee because of the dynamics, I suppose. For her to take every step, she was using 25% more energy to cover the same distance as somebody with able-bodied legs. But do you know what I love about Lorraine? Lorraine had lost her legs 6 years earlier. When she literally heard about this expedition, it changed her mindset, just the idea of the adventure. So for 6 years, she hadn't walked to the end of her garden since she'd lost her leg. She saw the advert calling for people to join this expedition. She got up and she walked to the end of her garden. And I just love that fact that it's just even the idea of adventure can inspire us in this wonderful way. And she's also just awesome and inspiring. We're still friends. This is a great thing about adventuring, yeah. You have friends that you have a bond with forever. Even if you don't see them for years, you're back on Exped when you meet up. So it was a big challenge for the team. But this was possibly the ultimate ordeal for those who like the hero's journey. Concepcion, it was a 5,000-foot active volcano. And I remember approaching it, and just it just seemed to smother the sky. It was everywhere. It was omnipresent. And there was just silence walking up to it. Because everyone was thinking, we've done so well. And they'd built so much resilience, obviously, over the way. They've built such great teamwork skills. But that was in front of them. And it was a beginning of it. It was a 30-degree slope. Sharp, jagged, and very hot rock, because the higher you got, not only was it baking sun, but as you got higher, I think you got the heat from the volcano. It was stiflingly hot. And for me, my great lesson on this expedition, and the reason I mention it, is because for the first time I learnt or came to fully understand how adventure can show us what we're capable of, and what an incredible gift that is. And this was through Ade. Ade's now a super famous TV star, but this was like 20 years ago or something. And this was, I think this is his first TV thing. He's like a bundle of motivation and positivity. He's a fabulous person to work with. And he had powered through the expedition, but he had his ultimate ordeal on this volcano. We were about 2,000 foot up. The slope changed from 30 degrees to 45. And at this point, the hauling team, because Ade was pushing, and then there was a team hauling as well, they just got to the point where it was becoming too difficult. For about 2 hours, they only covered about 600 meters. And so they had to sit down and go, we're never going to do this in the light. We've got to leave the wheelchair. And there was this terrible moment of realization. And Ade, who had, up until that point, had been this ball of motivation, at that point just... I was in tears. I think we were all like, he was our, he's such a cool guy. He was our sort of morale of the whole team. And to see him taken down, just for a moment, it was really terrifying in a way of like, but of course he's Ade. And although the wheelchair was going to stay, he wasn't. He was going to keep going. And he was going to give it a shot. And this was with his mate, Carl. Carl he'd met 6 weeks earlier for the first time, one-legged Carl. Bless him. We're still in touch a bit as well. And Carl was like, I'm going to be there every step of the way, or every drag and pull of the way. And up they tried, and up they went. And if I was talking about this rough, ragged rock, hot, stifling, so Ade uses a wheelchair because he had polio as a child and can't really use his legs. And so he had to push himself up, move between pushing himself up that way and literally just crawling and dragging his legs up behind him over this awful terrain. But the guy is made of pretty strong stuff. And 3,000 feet later, hours later, Carl and Ade reached the top, and we were all hugging at the top. We're properly in tears now. It was one of those wonderful moments of feeling alive. And that is actually something, when I've been doing my research into all of why adventure is so impactful and so important, that is one of the phrases I've heard the most. Feeling alive, most alive. And we felt absolutely our most alive at that moment. And of course, we were also blessed with some magic, because I think magic comes when you step outside of your comfort zone. There we were in this sort of moonscape of like choking sulfurous fumes. It was stiflingly hot. We were all battered and exhausted. And suddenly, this flotilla of yellow and white butterflies just sort of surrounded us. And I remember them landing on my arms, and on the rocks around us. And we were suddenly surrounded by this, it was like just a magical moment. And I spoke to Ade years later, because this has been such an important moment. This expedition has been such a lesson to me through my life, that I interviewed lots of people from the expedition going, why do you think it worked for us? What was it? What is so special? And Ade said to me 16 years after that summit, he said, that was my watershed. My whole life is separated into before and after the top of that volcano. He said before that volcano, I had trained to become a professional athlete, and he was a wonderful Olympian. I don't know if you probably know this. He's an amazing Olympian. But training for sport is something he'd always known. He'd pushed himself in an area that he knew the variables. When he came on this expedition, on this grand adventure, he didn't know what to expect. There was all this uncertainty. There was all this fear and all these different emotions. He couldn't prepare. He was just there and had to deal with it. And he said that that's why he found out at that moment and in the weeks and months afterwards, he realized just what he was capable of, and that he was capable of more than he thought he was. And I think Kurt Hahn would have loved to have heard that because that's Outward Bound's phrase, isn't it? More than you think. And so this idea that we can transform people's view of themselves and the world and what's possible through adventure, that's what I learned on this volcano. And he inspired me all those years ago. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Yes, seeing as I've got the slide, I better remember to say something now. So this idea of comfort zone, this idea that we live in a comfort zone, I like to think of the comfort zone as a circle around us. This is all of the familiar stuff, all of our routines and regular stuff that we feel very comfortable with, going to work and school the same way, choosing easy options rather than trying to challenge ourselves too much, sitting on the sofa watching Netflix, all fine. There's nothing wrong with the comfort zone. People think that I don't stay in the comfort zone. The comfort zone is an important place, but we don't want to reside there permanently, because then we have no growth. We don't learn. It's when you step out. This is Carl Ronk's model, based on all the Yerkes and Dodson, amazing research from 1908, I think that was from. We know this stuff for a long time. We seem to have forgotten it. Anyway, when you step outside of this comfort zone, you step into the stretch zone. Now, of course, I think the most natural way of doing that is by doing an adventure. But also, it could be starting a business, asking someone out on a date that you've been really wanting to do for ages. Whatever it is that's uncomfortable, but you really want it. But fear or the risk of failure, whatever has been holding you back. When you stretch into the stretch zone, something beautiful happens. You don't just step in, do that activity, that thing, and step back into your comfort zone. The comfort zone comes out to meet you. And I think that's the beauty and the real key to it all, is that the comfort zone comes to meet you, and not only are you more comfortable with more things, but your life is enriched. Your whole life is growing. That this is literally personal growth. And as I say, you get this wonderful magic as well. These magical things that you don't expect, and you can't. When you do something that's completely unknown to you and is outside of your comfort zone and outside of your understanding, you come across things, you come across experiences, people, conversations that you would never have expected. You're not looking for those things, but those are often the most magical things. Whether they be butterflies landing on you or whatever it might be. And I think that's why we keep going back for more. It's one of the reasons we keep going back for more. And as I said, Ade inspired me. This whole expedition, it reminded me that I had been working in jungles and deserts for over a decade at this point. Jungles was really my favorite place. And I was like, I thought I was a bit of a badass. I thought I was quite tough. And then I was like, actually, I'm not stretching myself, because I keep going similar countries, or at least similar terrain. I like my teams that I work with. I like to bring them in. Actually, I need to really push myself, because I'm a great believer that actually if you don't step out, if you're not truly like Ade, he had pushed himself, but he had to find a new way of pushing himself out of his comfort zone. I hadn't really pushed myself out of my comfort zone for a while. So I looked for something I'd never done, and ocean rowing was something I'd never done. So the reason I actually picked this, this was us coming under Tower Bridge 52 days later after leaving Tower Bridge and rowing around Britain, the second boat and the first ever women to do it. I think only about 15 people in the world have actually achieved it so far. But that's why I wanted to do it. I'd spent so long in the expedition and adventure world, and I wanted to do something that I had a high chance of failure. I wanted to dare to fail, because that's the only way that you can really find out what you're capable of. So Ade inspired, or that expedition, Ade and all of the whole team, not just the expedition team, but the filming team, everyone. We were all inspired each other. I think we all went on to do, before and after Beyond Boundaries, different things. And also, where does this lead? Well, it leads you to want to share. Once I was absolutely sure that there was something special here, something we weren't talking about, I wanted to share it with people. It's like, why aren't we talking about how important adventure is? Now, I know that we've got some wonderful specialists in this room, but generally, in the wider world, people may have heard of something like adventure therapy. It's, even that's quite a niche thing. Less niche, hopefully, day by day. But just when I would tell people how adventure is a positive life choice, how it's a transformational thing, how it's about good, building good well-being, it's a potential for building our relationship with the planet and with the environment, people mostly look at me like, what? I don't get it. Adventure is something that's frivolous and marginal. It's like, you do adventures. I'm not like that. I don't do adventures. And this perception of adventure is a real problem that I've been trying to, that I really think that we all need to bat down. So what did I do? I started doing lots of research because I wanted to understand for myself. There were no books. There were some great articles, but they were all in different areas about why adventure could be so positive for us. I set up Explorers Connect in a way, as a way to really promote this idea that adventure is a positive life choice. This is a way to improve our well-being, improve our lives. And through Explorers Connect, sorry, I can't cough. Through Explorers Connect, we had a very central core of things that we would do. I would share after the more research I was doing, the more theories and ideas I was getting, I was sharing stories of adventure changing people's lives. So the blog still is full of these stories of adventure changing people's lives. I was trying to get people to think about adventure in a different way. I also set up lots and lots of talks. I know that there's faces in here. You've come to some of the Explorers Connect talks over the years. The talks were always about normal people doing extraordinary things and then talking about why it mattered to them. Again, this idea that adventure is transformational. Adventure is not just frivolous, and it's not just for the elite. You don't have to be double-barreled name with a beard to go and do this stuff. It's for everyone, at any level, from small adventures right up to the top. But most importantly, that it's important. It's an important thing that we have lost from our society. So Explorers Connect is really this force of trying to get those messages out, trying to change the perception of adventure. And then after years of researching and feeling a bit with a lot of trepidation, in 2014, I set up the first Base Camp Festival. And I thought, well, this is where I'm going to have to test some of my ideas out for the first time. So from 2014 onwards, over each successive Base Camp Festival, I spoke about, what was the first one? About the importance of failure, daring to fail, failure and success, and how that builds to finding out what we can do. Then I talked about transformations. I shared loads of these transformational stories. And I also talked about the comfort zone. I think because the comfort zone is a really easy concept to talk about. So I talked about all of my research was very much in its infancy, so it was all a bit rough, and I was always a bit like scared. But adventure had taught me, don't be scared. If you're scared and it stops you, use fear instead to get you forwards, to peak your performance. And I think I talked a bit about fear as well. I can't remember I was talking about fear at that point. But and so I started to categorize ways that I think that we should be talking about how adventure can help us. These have become chapters in my book. And then in 2018, I was like, right, well, Base Camp and Explorers Connect are great, but it's not really getting us far enough, is it? I'd spoken to some brilliant researchers by that point, but I really wanted to take us to the next level. So AdventureMind started, and here we are. And it's all about getting researchers, practitioners, adventurers, therapists, coaches, a whole gamut of people to talk about adventure and the psychology of adventure, about how adventure is so good for us. And for the first time, under an umbrella, I wanted to bring together research and practitioners from outdoor education, adventure education, evolutionary psychology, positive psychology, tourism. I'm probably forgetting, sorry if I'm forgetting a whole big discipline, but it's like, for the very first time, let's get this stuff under an umbrella and talk about it together, because we need to join the dots a bit. And so AdventureMind is very much about doing that, and it still is. And of course, then I kept asking people to write this book because I wanted to read the book that would explain why I'm so passionate about adventure. So I had to plump it for myself. But it's full of adventure stories. I know many people here have read it. It's full of lots of stories of people transforming their life through adventure. But it's also backed up with some rigorous science. It is the first plump at the first argument to try to explain why adventure is, or the psychology of adventure is so good for us. So I'm sure it will be, there might be debatable points in it. Come and talk to me about it, especially as more science is coming out day by day now. But the idea was to get something out there that was a tool for people who work in this area or who are passionate about this area to explain to people, look, there's actually science backing up what I'm talking about. Because I know there's people here that like, I love adventure. I see it transforming people. You know, there's the wonderful Youth Adventure Trust here. They're the experts on why adventure helps people. And so there's so many wonderful organizations here. But I mentioned Youth Adventure Trust just because they say, oh, but we're not experts in this in a way. We couldn't tell you about this. And it's like, of course, you are the experts. But the reason I wrote the book is just to help us to use common parlance to try and create a way to just open that conversation, to improve our dialogue and our communication around what it is that we do and why we are passionate about it. And so I haven't got a watch. My watch is broken. I hope I'm not going totally over time. I'm just going to just a little bit more. But it's not all about the science. That's the science and explaining why is so important. But I want to tell you a little story about Sam, because Sam is such a powerful story to me, and it's really why we're here. It's about people like Sam. Sam was a young man who was struggling. He had struggled. Personally, he struggled at school, struggled academically, to the point where he had become an elective mute, which means that you can speak, but you choose not to. Or not choose might not be the right word, but he'd stopped speaking, despite physically being able to speak. And as you can imagine, this was terrifyingly challenging for him and his family tried all sorts of things. But then they heard about a 6-week surf therapy program, like a pilot project. And they thought, well, it might just make him feel a bit better about himself, and he might have a bit of fun, can take his mind off it all. So they signed him up, and he fell off, and he got back up again, and his resilience was building. You know where I was going with that one? And of course, eventually he caught his first wave. And if there's any surfers out there, wow, that feeling, that positive emotion, all that joy and other positive emotion that you get, that feeling of achievement. He was building up a bank of positive emotions. Oops. And on the last session, his parents came down to the beach and they were watching. And he was catching waves and having fun. And it was a wonderful thing to see. And then he started talking to his instructor. Oh, God, it still makes me a little bit, oh. And he just started speaking, for just out of the blue. No one saw it coming. He started speaking to his instructor. And his parents went over to Joe, who set up this pilot project, and he said, "Thank you for giving us back our son." And that was the wonderful way. It's now called the WAVE Project. They're doing fantastic work. And we need more. We need more support for the WAVE Project, for Youth Adventure Trust, for British Exploring, for all the other wonderful organisations here and out there today. So this is what AdventureMind is about. And now, do tell me if I can improve on this. This is a two-way conversation in the next 2 days. The idea is to provide support to the Adventure for I'm calling it Adventure for Wellbeing because I think we need a term. I'm still trying to find the term that best sums up what we're doing. The Adventure for Wellbeing community, promoting research, supporting practice and practitioners, raising awareness, both with the public, the policymakers, and people who give out funds, let's face it, and to rebrand adventuring as an opportunity to improve well-being, society, and planet. And so that is currently a first, second, third, I don't know, probably fifth, 500th draft. But with that in mind, that's what we're trying to do over the next 2 days, but not just over the next 2 days, over the next however many years, who knows. So what happened at AdventureMind last time? We've obviously had this massive break. AdventureMind 1 was very much about promoting the science and saying there is science out there, because what I was constantly getting back from people when I was trying to tell them Adventure matters was like, but really? Well, that's just your opinion. No, here's the science. It was as I know that there are some faces here who were there at that first one, it was all about promoting the science. And so lots of wonderful connections happened. Lots more evidence-based practice came out the back of it. Researchers were getting more data because they were working with different charities and companies and CICs, and also better impact reporting for funders and so on and so forth. Various publications came out about it. I finally finished my book because I wanted to use it as a platform to just go, is any of this making sense? There's a wonderful Brigitte's book. Brigitte went off and did a book. There she is, after AdventureMind. There's a wonderful academic book coming out, which I will tell you about the next AdventureMind, because that is not quite out yet, but Brigitte's book is here if you want to talk to her about it. Amazing articles. Jill, wonderful Jill Pomfret. Oh, there she is. She'll be talking, later on this afternoon. And other wonderful, it's like that inspired me to go and do more. Some wonderful clever people doing clever, good, important work. And also loads of magazines. There's a whole new podcast about adventure and well-being now. Nikki, who came last time. Adventurers started doing MSc and other research. Several people who are here, they thought, right, I'm going to go and do an MSc or a coaching qualification or so there was all sorts of things that popped out the end. But what went on hold was the networking. I couldn't do the Facebook group because I thought, well, there's all this craziness going on. This is not the time to try and do a network because so many plans had went on hold, including our campaign. So we've got several MPs invested in this idea who want to help. And I've also got a brand involved, particularly in the schools campaign. I'm just telling you that because that's where we're leading to. What are we going to do this time? Well, this time, do take a photo of this. I want your help with this. You're going to be asked about this during the conference and afterwards. The whole point of AdventureMind is about a community and about supporting each other to support that mission. But also, we can change that mission. We can adapt that. But I think that's basically the idea. Ideas that I'm looking for is where can we get this message out? I found it. I've done lots of TV, print interviews, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it feels like it's going out into nowhere. Sometimes I get loads of feedback from emails and going, oh yeah, that's helped me. I'm going to take my kids out and do this. Where can we get it? Where can we get this message out? I want more Sam stories. Please tell me about your work. Those personal stories that you have, or we can shine a light on the brilliant things that you're doing and promote this idea for everyone that adventure is important and that what we're doing and our work needs funding and assistance. So please share those, let me know. Who's the face? Yeah, here's a question. I need someone famous, I think, to be the face of AdventureMind, AdventureRevolution, whatever it is, the Adventure for Wellbeing. Who do you think might be good? Give me some ideas. And also there's an AdventureMind grant. I've been offered some money, which is great. Not for me. In fact, I want a team of people who'll decide who'll get the money because I don't want to go anywhere near it. But I'm looking for another partner for the AdventureMind grant. So I don't know if you know a brand that might be interested in something like this. And this will be Adventure for Wellbeing, maybe for families to go and do something, or it won't necessarily be for, I think it's going to be for individuals is what we're talking about a lot at the moment. Individuals or families. So who might get behind that? Because I've got a great sum of money to sort of think about how to give it out. And I can, we can promote it through our networks. But I need another brand or organization to help with that. I need volunteers, or we need volunteers. AdventureMind currently is just something that I've set up because I'm so passionate about it. It died over COVID and I had to relaunch it this time. But it shouldn't just be me on my own. I'm just one person and I need it. So I'm putting this together, a steering committee. Some wonderful people are on the steering committee already. The fabulous Alan Hewitt, who helped me with my book, a bit of a legend in the adventure and outdoor education and so on, psychology area, is involved. We're going to deliver AdventureMind in America and possibly in either New Zealand or Australia in the next couple of years, but also want to run it obviously here again. Would you be interested in helping hold the idea, helping mold the idea? And also, I just need help with things like networking, social media, marketing, those sorts of really important stuff. Who could help share the report widely? That's everyone. The report from today and tomorrow, I'm going to be dripping bits out over, and we've got a wonderful team that we're writing up the report. We're going to be sharing information from here for the whole industry, for the whole community. So we need help sharing it. How can we do that? And the schools campaign. Maybe you're really as passionate as I am that we need adventure in schools. Now, more than ever before. My son is 4. The thought of him sitting behind a desk too much, not having enough adventure, not having enough physical activity and all of that. I think I've got a really good bunch of people who want to help with this, but I'm not a campaign manager. I shouldn't be the face of it. But I'll help you. If you want to be the person, if it will help support your mission and your brand or your charity as well, then I'll push everything towards you. You help you, and I'll help you, and we'll help you. And the other thing is, please use these hashtags. I just shoved them there. When you're social mediaing and all that stuff this next few days, use those, because then we can all see ideas that we're sharing, content. It gets the conversation going. I feel like I've spoken far too long.